So if you clicked on this video, I'm assuming that you are just getting started in your videography journey, or maybe you've been at it for a little while, but you're trying to really kind of get back to your roots and maybe learn a couple tips that maybe you skipped over and you missed and really are gonna help you in your overall filmmaking videography journey. Well, that's what we're doing in this video. We're talking about my 5 tips for day 1 videographers. What's good, creative fam? Brandon Washington here, and here on the channel, one of my top videos actually has to do with filmmaking 101. And in that video, I talked a lot about some of the things that you need to know from a technical standpoint. But in that video, I also mentioned that sometimes there are things that you don't know that, well, you don't know. And that's a very difficult process, especially when you're just getting started. So that is the reason why we're gonna be jumping into these 5 tips. Now, the first tip is about the thing that pretty much plagues all of us, and that is about gear. Now, gear is a difficult step to walk. I mean, first of all, it can be very expensive. You obviously have to have some of it. So the fact that gear technically doesn't matter, even though you don't believe it, and you also know the fact that you need it in order to work, means that you kind of get lost. So here's a couple tips when it comes to gear. First, lenses over camera bodies. If you are looking at a brand new camera, and let's say your budget is $1,000, but you're looking at a camera body that costs maybe $500 and a lens that costs $500, I would strongly recommend that you actually go more of the ratio of 250 on the camera body and 750 on the lens. I know that sounds crazy. You're like, Brandon, a camera body for $250? How could I even pull that off? Well, look in the used market. Camera bodies are not that expensive, especially after they've been out for about 2 or 3 years, and you can find some really high quality used camera bodies like the Sony a6000. Then pair that with a really good lens or a set of lenses with some low apertures, and trust me, your images are going to look better. Also, when you're just getting started, don't get overwhelmed by what gear you need. I mean, let's face it, on day 1, you don't really know where this journey is gonna take you. You might end up shooting more weddings, you might end up shooting more commercial work, heck, you might just decide to just do YouTube. So it's important that as you're getting started, don't get caught up in buying a lot of gear, but I do recommend renting a lot of gear. Find one of your local rent shops, or maybe partner up with other creators in your area that you can borrow gear from, or go out on test shoots and find out what type of gear you like to work with. Just because maybe you have the money to buy something doesn't necessarily mean that you should. So what I would say is rent the gear until you've rented it so many times where you basically say, this makes no sense, I should buy it, and then that's when you know it's time to purchase. Now, the second biggest tip, and this is actually one that I talked about in the previous video, but that is you have to learn your camera basics. I mean, it's pretty much a no-brainer. Now, there's not a lot that you need to know about. I'm gonna throw some terms at you really quick, but don't worry, I've got an entire way for you to learn these. So there are certain terms that you need to understand no matter what you're doing in video. So that is aperture, shutter speed or shutter angle, depending on the camera you're using, ISO, frames per second, and resolution. Now, resolution's pretty easy. That's like your 1080 versus 4K versus 6K versus 12K, because that's where cameras are now. But all these other terms are things that you need to understand, especially if you want to be able to dial in your shot the exact way you want to. Now, instead of spending a bunch of time here in this video to actually kind of explain all that, I actually created an entire training course going over all these things. And because you guys are watching this video, I'm actually gonna give you that training course completely for free. Yep, that's right, completely for free. Now, I will say you need to go to my website, link will be down below in the description, and use the checkout code or coupon code CreativeFamYT. If you use that CreativeFamYT coupon code, this training course will be absolutely free, and it teaches you all those basics that you need to know. Now, we are going to be updating this training course very soon, so that's another reason why we're giving it away for free. All the information is correct, I just think it can look better. So I just want to reshoot it just to make it look a little bit better, but it is an awesome training course, and so I strongly recommend you guys sign up for that down below. Now, the third tip that I have for day 1 filmmakers or videographers is that lighting is key. Now, this is something that I did not pick up on until much later, like 3 years into my journey, and I desperately paid the price, and you can see it in my earliest work. So I would strongly recommend, this is something from me to you. I know lighting's not sexy. It's not what everyone's talking about on YouTube, but at the end of the day, lighting is key. If you have a crappy camera and a crappy lens, but you know how to light the crap out of your footage, you can make your stuff look fantastic. Same way on the flip side, if you have terrible lighting skills, but you have the best camera and the best lens, your footage will still look like trash. So lighting is key. I strongly recommend you guys check out lighting. I actually have a few videos on lighting here on the channel, so I'll link those up. It's like free resources for you guys to learn as well, because you desperately need to understand lighting. Now, the fourth tip is all about post-production. Now, let's face it, you are going to have to edit your footage. Whether you edit it or you hire an editor, editing is just part of the filmmaking videography journey. I mean, you can go out and get all the clips in the world, but if you never edit it, there's nothing to show anyone. So when it comes to post-production, there are so many different routes, and everyone's going to have an opinion. Whether they say you need to use Final Cut, or you need to use Premiere, or DaVinci, everyone has their own journey, but I will tell you that it is best for you to choose a journey that works best for you. Now, recently, I've been using DaVinci Resolve, and I used to be a primary Final Cut editor, but one of the reasons why I've been actually working in Resolve more is because it's a little bit more of a universal program. It can work on PCs and it can work on Macs. And recently, I partnered up with Dell in order to test out their Precision 5750 mobile workstation. This workstation is absolutely a monster. I mean, it's got crazy amounts of power. It allows me to whip through 4K and 6K files, even raw files from my Red Komodo, and I absolutely love working on this laptop. But having a powerful laptop in order to actually do my edits is a part of this post-production workflow. Now, if you are looking for a powerful PC workstation like this, I definitely recommend you check it out. Links are down below. But if you're just getting started, the one thing I would say is just make sure that you pick an editing platform that's going to give you the most flexibility. The thing I like the most about Resolve is the fact that it's actually free. You can download it for free on Blackmagic's website, and then that way, instead of spending more money on a, editing suite, you can actually spend that money on investing in your workstation, because I can tell you having a powerful workstation is so crucial when you're editing, because the last thing you want to do is have your creativity stifled because your computer can't keep up. And the fifth and final tip that I have for you guys, kind of rounding about everything we talked about, and that is less is more. When you're just getting started out, I get it. There's so many different people on YouTube talking about different transitions and camera moves and gear and this and that and editing effects, and it can be greatly overwhelming. But when you're just getting started, honestly, less is more. I mean, when I first got started, all I wanted was an amazing, decent camera with a great lens and a tripod. And that got me a long way for a long time. See, less is more, because when you try to do things in video and you're close to making it look good, but it just really doesn't look all the way right, well, that is jarring for the audience. And trust me, I've made my fair share of mistakes in that. So as my advice to you, learning from my past experiences, is that if you haven't mastered something like a certain effect, or maybe it's a graphic or something along those lines, maybe think about scaling back a little bit. Having something that's less flashy but more polished will look 10 times better than something that's very flashy, but you can see all the little inconsistencies and mistakes throughout the video. People are going to see those, and it's going to distract from your overall image. So I strongly recommend that when you're out filming, when you're shooting your videos, especially when you're just getting started, it's okay to scale back. You don't need to compete with your favorite YouTuber, your favorite travel vlogger, your favorite cinematographer or director. This is your journey, and it is perfectly okay to start out slow, because what happens is as you continue to grow, you increase your skills, and by the end of it, you have a style that is your own, and something that you've been able to master over time. Obviously, you want to expand, you want to grow, definitely try new things. But when it comes to just getting started, it is perfectly okay to start simple and slowly work your way up. Thanks so much for checking out this video. Don't forget, links down below to pick up your free training course so you can learn those basic camera settings that you desperately need to know as a filmmaker. Also, if you guys have any additional questions or other topics you want me to cover in future videos, leave those down below in the comments. Thanks so much, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.